Breaking news reports coming through: more illegal migrants, currently non-immigration status, crossing over by the truckloads or busloads, better yet, are being dropped off. Reports stating in front of Kamala Harris's yard, her front yard, her lawn. Meanwhile, Florida governor signs a new bill into law. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is about central bank digital currency, a CBDC, and restrictions that you're going to want to know more about. Major influx at the borders. Reports of major influx at the borders, updates of migrant activity as Title 42 ended. According to federal officials, reports from the Texas Tribune, CNN, with reports coming in from some U.S. cities along the southern border and what they have seen in regard to a surge of migrants after the Title 42 expiration. Now, we've got a lot that we need to cover here. Janet Yellen, U.S. default, as well as the poverty limit, or the poverty line, I should say, and fixed income, Social Security recipients, SSA, SSI, SSDI, the default situation as we approach the X date. Janet Yellen says that we have to default on something if Congress fails, which is what I brought to you guys yesterday, how there could be impacts negatively affecting Social Security with the SSA and advocates for Social Security preparing to brace for U.S. debt default with payments to beneficiaries at stake. Social Security recipients could face interruptions in their payments and need to be prepared. But unfortunately, at this time, many have little flexibility, if any, to stave off financial crisis by themselves. This is going to be a huge, huge problem, folks. Shortages. Stock up now. Default alert, the government will do this next. This is unbelievable. All these people living below the poverty line are going to be affected by this. Plus CBDC news updates. We can't do this anymore. Stock up now while you can. Don't let this happen to you. Tell your family to prepare. Urgent alerts and warnings. Please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've got a lot of news to cover, a lot of important updates, information I want to share with you. An early happy Mother's Day to all the mothers watching. Thank you for your support, your continued support. Where do I begin? CBDC, new law, coming to Florida. Bill signed into law, actually. Florida governor signed CBDC bill into law, restricting some uses of U.S. and foreign CBDCs. The new law, signed by Governor Ron DeSantis, also urges other states to take action against the potential introduction of CBDCs through their commercial codes. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill restricting the use of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, in the state of Florida, and the governor urged state lawmakers in March to draft this bill. So it moved through pretty quickly. The new law prohibits the use of a United States federal CBDC as money within Florida's Uniform Commercial Code, the UCC. It also bans the use of CBDCs issued by foreign governments and calls on other states to use their commercial codes to institute similar prohibitions. At the signing ceremony for the bill, DeSantis said that he was spurred into action by U.S. President Joe Biden and his administration. We can see here from Twitter that Ron DeSantis' anti-CBDC bill just passed the House and Senate. I brought a select few of our members up to Florida's capital to meet with the governor's team. Now, the reason why this is so important is because CBDC ultimately is designed to be a digital currency. It's inherently, by its name, a digital currency, which means that it has limitless capabilities, but most importantly, the ability to be tracked, traced, and taxed. As we all know, our government is very good at doing that. Now, why is this so important And why is it so important in this video today? Well, that is because if you are quite possibly of the select individuals in this country that live below the poverty line or earn the minimum or maximum requirement to fall within that poverty category, you know how difficult it is to survive on such meager earnings, such few resources and access to capital, while trying to manage today's life, expenses, necessities. But we all know that that's not really true. There's no reason to, point fingers here or call out anybody by name, because you have to do what you have to do in order to survive. And it's becoming more and more difficult to do just that. Inflation's going up. CPI reports are misleading. Jobs reports are coming in telling you that jobs are being made, but really and truly, hours worked are being reduced. So people are making less money. People are making less money. The costs, their necessities, their basic needs for survival are going up, becoming more expensive. And in order to maintain proper income levels, to fall within this poverty category, and then to receive the benefits available to you made possible by the government, which could potentially face major financial difficulties with this debt ceiling limit being reached and exhausted and cuts having to be made. The simple fact of the matter is that you really can't do it alone. Therefore, you would need some form of supplement, some supplemental income, an outside source, more than likely cash-based side hustle. Those on these government assistance programs know that they'll even ask you if anyone's helping to provide you with food, which is unreal. But it basically shows their true intentions on how they want to hold you down and keep you trapped and stuck in this rut, barely hanging on and on the verge of total collapse, really. There's no other way to put it. There's really no other way around it. But then introduce the new challenger, which will be CBDC. And CBDC will eliminate the ability for those who have flown under the radar and managed to stay under the poverty line limit of income earned, because you won't be able to pull that off anymore. It won't be a matter of, is anyone helping you with food? It'll be a matter of, we can see here in the system that you've been provided with some form of monetary assistance. There's no more getting paid cash. There's no more under the table. There's no more getting by and beating the system. Yes, I chose the word beat. I don't consider it cheating the system, because the system isn't fair. And what's most important is to try to win this game and survive and live and fight and play another day. In order to do that, you have to beat the game. In order to do that, you have to have an advantage. That's not fair or unfair. It's life. And when CBDC rolls out and dollars are no more, done away with, fiat paper currency is gone, and the government can see and dictate and track, trace, tax, restrict, set expiration dates on, or even negative interest rates to pull money out of your account, many of who fall under this poverty line category, this ability to try and get by, will ultimately suffer the greatest consequence, because their true income, their true ability will be realized, and then they will be cut off from the system. They will be cut off from the assistance that could possibly be made available if it's still around. Because this debt default would trigger a huge global economic crisis, downturn, according to Janet Yellen. And she says that we have to default on something. And that something is probably going to be several somethings. Treasury chief says that the focus now is on talks with Congress. And Yellen refrains from pledging to maintain debt servicing. More importantly, Social Security recipients could face interruptions in their payments. With the odds of a U.S. debt default increasing, Social Security advocates warn beneficiaries they should be prepared in case their payments are interrupted. Let that sink in. This is your warning sign. I watched a video yesterday. Chris Igo, a friend of mine, he posted a video. Go check him out. Chris Igo, Igoe. And he said that when he lost everything, he didn't get a warning. He woke up one morning and it was all gone. This is a fortunate opportunity, although the outcome, the end result will be devastating. But this is a fortunate opportunity that you get a warning. Dan Adcock, Director of Government Relations and Policy for the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, he said that there is a good chance that in the event of a default, millions of Americans' benefits would be disrupted. Seniors should be prepared if they're financially able. Big if. And Adcock added they should consider putting off discretionary purchases so that they have enough to tide them over. So maybe put off a vacation this summer. Maybe put off getting a new washer and dryer. Maybe put off buying a new vehicle. Put off maybe even some of these discretionary expenses and purchases being, impacts to your health. Maybe forego a gym membership. Maybe you're going to have to change your diet and how you eat. Ultimately, less healthy foods are less expensive, and you see where that goes. But discretionary spending is going down. It's going to have to go down. And this is going to be in preparation so that you have enough to tide you over. Now, granted, this is going to have an impact on the economy and business in general, as businesses are suffering due to a lack of discretionary spending by consumers. Par for the course. Way to go, Jerome. But millions of beneficiaries have no financial room to maneuver, according to Adcock, noting that about 40% of Social Security recipients, which include Americans who are disabled and those who are unable to work. Time is running out. May not be possible to avoid this X date, the fiscal limit when the U.S. will run out of money to pay its bills. Unless Congress raises or suspends the nation's debt ceiling, ultimately producing very real implications for the 66 million people, retirees, disabled Americans, and children who receive Social Security benefits. If the U.S. defaults on its obligations, Social Security recipients could see their checks delayed. And that could pose a financial hardship for many beneficiaries, especially those millions who rely on Social Security as their main source of income. And you guys have said it to me before. I've heard it time and time again. Do not rely on one source of income. Do not rely on YouTube as your income, especially since YouTube isn't considered a real job. And for many, and some of which I've seen some creators out there, they don't make much from the content that they create on YouTube. Still, the political uncertainty around the fight over the debt ceiling makes it hard to predict what would happen with Social Security, partly because of conflicting laws. And because the U.S. has never defaulted on its debt, a possibility that Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said would lead to an economic and financial catastrophe. All the while, the House of Representatives, Congress is working to restructure a lot of these programs, Social Security, food stamps, Medicare. There are no precedents that offer a guide to how the situation could play out. Therefore, anything can happen. And we should ultimately prepare for the worst, hope for the best. If the U.S. defaults, it is unlikely that the federal government would be able to issue payments to millions of Americans, including our military families and seniors who rely on Social Security. And this was said last month. So as I said, this is the warning. Janet Yellen herself, U.S. Treasury Secretary, said these words. Payments to Social Security recipients, as well as payments from the federal government to veterans, food stamp recipients, and reimbursements to state governments for Medicare and Medicaid could be delayed. Credit rating agencies report that to complicate matters even worse, there are conflicting laws about Social Security payments. And under the Social Security Act, beneficiaries are entitled to their full scheduled benefits. But another law, the Anti-Deficiency Act bans government spending in excess of its available funds. So there's no law that specifies what actions the Social Security Administration should take to ensure benefits are paid in full and on time. And that's not good. That's very bad. The reality is that the Secretary of the Treasury, who is responsible for the payments, has recently stated that it is unlikely that the federal government can continue to pay Social Security benefits, and that has to be the authoritative voice on the issue. Think about it. If the U.S. defaults, what happens to Social Security? It's possible that your check could be delayed. Although the length of the interruption would depend on how long it takes lawmakers to fix the fiscal situation, seniors and other recipients should monitor the negotiations over the debt limit. So stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel. Recipients need to be very careful about anything that is paid automatically based on their Social Security payment, because that may not get there in full or on time if, in fact, the debt limit isn't raised on time. You got to think, why would our government allow this to happen, knowing how many people could potentially be affected by this? Can they not put their differences aside and formulate a solution before it all goes up in smoke? About 4 in 10 Social Security recipients rely on the program for 90% of their income, and they'll most likely need to turn to a family member or other support if payment is delayed. So, ladies and gentlemen, please heed the warning signs, pay attention, and maybe lend a helping hand to a family member. Stock up now. Shortages are likely to occur, and this could be in the form of food, but more importantly, in the form of monetary, financial, capital, resources, dollars. This debt default alert is a serious situation that we must pay attention to, that we must brace for impact. People living below the line of poverty, people potentially going to be impacted by this new CBDC law that has been signed in, and the changes that could potentially happen in Washington, central banks, the Fed, the Biden administration, Democrats, Republicans, all deciding the fate of this country while they fly around the world in their private jets and live in their expensive mansions and take their luxurious vacations, all the while allowing Title 42 to expire. And we're seeing updates and headlines and new information about the activity at the borders. The Texas Tribune border didn't see a major influx of migrants when Title 42 ended, although migrants lined up by the hundreds in El Paso and other border crossings as the public health order was winding down. A Biden administration official said that there wasn't a rush to the border when the Title 42 was lifted. Maybe they're taking their time. They don't want to rush into things. While some U.S. cities along the southern border say that they have not seen a surge of migrants expected after the expiration of Title 42. But what do you guys think? What do you guys know? What are you guys seeing? Is anybody in these areas? Now, I've seen videos and reels and uploads shared to Twitter and variety of other media outlets and sources showing running, crowds of people, busloads of people being dropped off, mostly men, very few women and children. But is it true? Is this actually happening? Is everything that we are being told the truth? Or is this all being manipulated in a way that can ultimately further control the people, control the money? Hopefully we'll find out soon. But until then, you guys take care and be safe. Bye for now.